And Frizzalone. We have a quorum. We also have Mr. Mustis and Mr. Brooks.
All right, let's have the pledge.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up we have the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on June 7th. Motion. Motion. Second. Don, did you second that?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not up there.
I'd love to.
All right, you second that, right? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
I want to make the motion. You guys do it. No?
No, just Ken.
Okay.
Corey.
Okay, so you four here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, first up, we don't have any old business on new business, committing funds for the University of Illinois Cooperative Extension. We have Patrick to talk to us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm Beth LaPlante. I'm from the University of Illinois Extension. I'm the county director, and I serve Will, Grundy, and Kankakee counties. And this is my coworker, Nancy Kahida. She's the extension program coordinator, and she serves Will County as a natural resources horticulture person. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for the donation of $25,000 this past year. It is well appreciated. And I've come to ask for that and more, I guess I would say. We have a number of educators that serve the community. 2 of those are actually paid totally by the state from the university that serve in our community because we are a large county. And one of those is an educator for SNAP Ed, which is supplemental nutrition education program. She does a lot of work with school districts that are eligible for that. She works with food pantries. She works in other school districts to help them with their nutrition programs. Also to help get grant funding from USDA to supplement food for these areas. We also have a Metro 4-H educator that is solely paid for by by the state extensions, and she does most of her work in Will County. So this all happened in 2011. We combined these counties. So we seek local funding, and that funding in the past has been matched by the state, except for this last year. We did not receive any matching funds. The good news is we are in the budget at our FY15 ask, and that's about a 70% match, a little over that. So anything that we receive, if it goes through the stopgap materials and stuff, we'll have to see that. But we are in the budget. That's the good news. So what we raise locally then is this match, and I need about $140,000 to keep the office going. That includes 2 full-time folks in the county, not including any of the educators that are coming from the other areas. So with a $50,000 request from the county board, I'm getting $13,000 from United Way. That's down a little bit from last year. It was $13,600 last year. And then we have other groups that we ask money for, about $18,000 total on there. So so my budget is $81,000 with a match, I guess is what I'm saying. So that's kind of the way I'm laid out. We've continued this last year without that extra match. because we had carryover funds from previous years, mostly from Kankakee County, I will say, because they have a referendum there, and we do get that monies. But again, lost the match on that, so it's significant. And we're here to talk about other programs, other things you'd like to know, but I think Nancy has a good handle on literally how many people we touch and what we serve, so I'd like for her to speak.
Okay, so many of your faces are familiar to me. I work here in Will County. I'm the program coordinator for Extension, and my predominant responsibilities lie with natural resources, so master gardening, master naturalist, master composter areas. But I also help out in the 4-H department. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what we do in the county. First, I want to talk about an area that's not my youth development that Beth alluded to. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with, but almost in every one of your districts, we have robotics now, the robotics competition for U of I. And Megan Walsh, our unit director, is responsible for that. Over 300 youth participated. And that allows kids to have robotics clubs after school, and then they participate in these competitions and they're eligible to go down state. And we all know how difficult it is with school today. Everybody is maxed out with the time and the abilities they have. Things like robotics is something the university brings in, and it really makes a great impact on these kids. And as they progress to high school, it gives them extra tools. And whether you are going to go to college or whether you're going to go into a trade, all these robotics are really important today. On the flip side of that, something I do deal with is embryology, which is the incubation of eggs in the classroom. A teacher just said to me the other day in a summer program, she says, you know, without Extension, we don't have time to do these things anymore. We don't have any hands-on time to do. We're so packed up with everything. So we bring that to the kids as well. In my area, one thing that Extension brings that maybe other agencies don't bring in is the power of volunteerism. I have 140 volunteers that are master gardeners, 57 that are master naturalists and some composters. And again, they're volunteering for free through our programming. And I know many of you have seen the programs we do. We're involved in almost every community garden. We're involved in the new Casa garden that's behind Casa. That's our project as well. And we also answer 10,000 homeowners' questions every year. Homeowners' questions about their gardening and their resources. And it helps to keep our county healthy and growing. And so that's a really big part of it. We also have the traditional 4-H clubs that we still have. But Extension is so much more than just a classic club. It's a large part of this youth development. And we also have programmatic areas in consumer and economic sciences, as well as local foods and small farms. So we partner with many, many agencies, as many as we can, to help bring the good news of U of I to Will County. Did you have any questions?
No. What I'd like to say is I know you guys do a great job, and I believe we should support you. But I think my feeling is that we should support at the level we did last year, which is $25,000. Our budget is just as tight as everybody else, except we're actually still paying our bills, unlike the state of Illinois. But as tight as we are, I think we should stay at the same number that we're at.
And I fully appreciate that, that's for sure, yes.
I had a question. Last year's request was for $50,000, which I recall that was already cut from the previous year. But we approved 25. Now, as you go forward, it wasn't cut?
We spent $25,000 for a while.
Okay.
No, we got 50,000 one year.
1 year.
Yes.
A year prior to that was 25,000.
Yes.
It's been pretty much at a $25,000 level for some time.
Mhm.
It was at a $50,000 level for many, many years.
Correct.
Just during the boom years. Good old days, so to speak.
I guess the question I was asking, going forward as you do your planning, are you planning in case more cuts or uncertainties or the funding is not there? You have a plan in place in case we need to cut ours some more?
In case you need to cut yours more?
Yes, so that we can continue the program without sacrificing too much.
Well,
Just asking that, I don't know. Things are getting tight.
aren't they? Yes. Yeah. The plan is to reduce programming for our end, and yes, we'd have to do that. But I guess what I'm alluding to is the fact that you're getting a big bang for your buck. We have a lot of programs that are occurring, and they won't be able to continue if we don't continue to have some support. And yes, we would have to start cutting programs. Maybe it will be a reduction of an office or staffing. We may have to roll people into another office or whatever. But we did that, I guess is what I'm going to say. We did that a number of years ago. And, so, yes.
Corey?
Yeah.
I'm aware of the work you do, and I think it's excellent. And I think you're right, that the county gets a big bang for its buck for what you do. And in particular, you helped save my tomatoes, because
Well, there's that,
I
exactly.
didn't understand why the more water I gave them, the worse they looked.
That's right, that's
And
exactly
you
right.
explained to me that they're not meant to live underwater.
That's
and now
right.
I understand. I would love to support a higher measure, but I think the responsible thing for us now is to keep it at the $25,000 level, all with the recognition from my part that the $25,000 contribution towards your efforts is smaller than it should be, provided we had a larger budget to deal with it. And that we are getting, as you said, a big bang for our buck. I completely agree with you. I would just suggest that we keep it at the 25 this year. However, that we be mindful of that when we're working on our budget for 2017, and we try to incorporate another $5,000 or $10,000 into it. I think that if during the initial planning phases for next year, if we're mindful of that and we really make it a priority, that in the next year or two, we could be able to find an additional, smaller amount of money towards that. Even if it was 5,000, 5,000 could be helpful. But I want to thank you for what you do, because there are a whole lot of families that benefit from your work, and it isn't something that makes the front pages all the time. And I get that, but it's still very beneficial for our folks in the county.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Jim, did you have something?
Well, I was going to say something. Yeah, maybe we could consider something less than 50,000, but maybe more than 25. And I was thinking, maybe we can do something incrementally. Maybe another $5,000 would be helpful. Anything in this area is helpful. You are the only agency really that we fund on a regular basis for the operation of your agency. But we do feel it kind of covers that youth, it kind of covers the educational end for the county, our contribution to education. So I would be open to maybe a small additional amount, but I think that's how we should really kind of budget, as Corey was saying. Maybe do it incrementally. Doubling it for us right now is tough. We've had some issues here at the county. People have gotten laid off. But if we didn't consider additional amount this year, I think we could plan maybe a small increase. I just thought we could get it. You just said it before I did.
That's a first. I'll make this brief, but for whatever it's worth, in just my opinion, this is another ongoing symptom and real life example of how the problems with the state of Illinois are impacting everybody and impacting organizations and programs you might not have normally thought would be impacted. For example, if I had the surety that the state of Illinois was going to pay us what they rightfully owe the county of Will based upon our, ongoing laws and agreements, and they were going to pay us when we're owed those monies, I wouldn't have the anxiety I do about it. And it's not the extra $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 that would go to you. If that breaks us, we've got bigger problems. It's that there's 100 of those examples, and there's also just the example or the process of setting policy that sends the right message too. But this is just another example that an expansion or even a continuance of horticulture programs and education for youth and family about farming and gardening and all those things can be impacted because the state can't get its act together. And it's just really a shame, about how this is going. So I think that I probably said the obvious in this room, but I wanted it to be said.
Steve,
Since Jim repeated what Corey said, I think I will too. and this is what I wanted to ask our chairman, Mr. Frizzalone. If from this point forward, if we did award the 25,000 this year, that we can set in place the increment of some kind of an increase to be established. Personally, I think they do a wonderful job as well. I don't have tomatoes, I don't like tomatoes, don't record that. If we can, somewhere perhaps around a 5,000 increment, I want to throw that number out, as it rises per year, as our budget will allow us. Which would mean if we put a program in place, Mr. Chairman, for an increment after this year, a 5,000 per year increase, if there's something in our budget that prohibit us from doing that in 17, 18, 19, so forth, then we will not be able to do it. But I guess my question would be if we can implement.
If I get clarification though, this request would be for the 2017 budget?
Yes.
This is 17.
That's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I wanted to make this request is for
17, okay.
You see the 2016 one already.
Okay, so 17 will be 25.
Budget hasn't been passed.
Okay.
Well, we're still working on the budget.
Correct. We're getting that stuff.
Steve, you
Yeah,
had
I have a suggestion, and I don't know how the board, how this committee would think about it, but what if we took off all the requests for all the programs, and we told them, hold off, we're gonna find out how much money our budget has to support all the programs, and then if you come up with a number that we can afford to pay for the programs, then we only pay up to that amount to all the programs. So you can say, this program gets 25,000, the state's attorney program that we had gets 25, and then that way we don't go over budget on anything. So we keep within our budget. And I don't know if that's something that's feasible, but if you just say, we can afford to participate in all these programs up to a certain dollar amount, and then we will fund each program up to that dollar amount.
The extension is different.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying,
The
I'm
extension is
hearing
not-
5,000 this year,
extension is-
5,000 next year.
Extension is not like.
We don't,
Just say, extension is not like other nonprofits that come. You know, they're basically, you know, we can put a levy for Illinois extension if you want. You can't do that for others, nonprofits. This is a little unique, something we've supported since I've been here.
I think it's a great program. Reedy Poi, Illinois, that's a great program. We can go down the list of all the
This is-
great
this is
programs,
different.
but we have to have some kind of a balance.
This is different than the other nonprofits. The relationship is different.
There's actually
Totally
a
different.
statutory requirement that we provide someone.
County board law.
Denise.
But we still
Thank you,
can put
Mr.
in the
Chair.
budget and say we
I
can
just
give
want
X
to
amount of
suggest
dollars.
that since this is the 17 budget, go ahead and make it the 30, because we are in the planning phase, and we can work that in right now.
We could put in
Just a suggestion.
well, you can always put in a request and see if the budget numbers work. You know, I mean, we can request 30,000 and not promising it.
No, my only concern again is, we don't know what the state's gonna do to us. You know, I know you guys are hit by it. What if they hit us the same way they? That's a concern.
Let me say, I don't want, if I may, I'm sorry, if I may, let's not put too much on the state when it comes to this county. You know, county government is not really, most of the monies we get from the state of Illinois are not program money. It's, we get, they're not gonna cut your sales tax, it's a pass, they're not gonna cut federal money. I mean, I don't wanna make more of a deal of the state relationship to the county and how we operate. I guess you could always say they can keep the sales tax. I guess you right. Well, but they can, but it would be, I'm just saying.
My point is that they're in such dire straits eventually, the likelihood of
You're saying that
increasing.
they're gonna take the local portion of the sales tax
They've
money?
already done it.
You know,
They don't reduce that.
they don't distribute it, them trying to take it.
Trying to reduce it.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, I'm just saying that it's not like cutting out, they've been cutting that Illinois extension forever, you know? And I understand that we actually have a concern. I just don't want us to think of all kinds of excuses to say why we can't do things, but I don't really think that's the case.
Jackie?
Somebody down.
Oh, there it goes. It's working now.
I just wanted to suggest that if the concern is the state of Illinois budget, which of course we have no control over, then maybe we ought to consider doing 15,000 for the first half of the year and 15,000 for the second half of the year. State's only got a half a year budget. You know, if that's the big holdup, that we don't know what they're gonna do after December, then let's, you know, or we give 25,000 up front, and then after 6 months, we add another 5,000. You know, something on that line.
Steve?
And forgive me, I forgot, I've been around long enough, but I think at one point in time we were funding 50,000.
We've had that discussion.
And I think that it's been a while since we cut it back down. I think the incentive seems to be to start giving a little bit more. I would recommend, I don't know if we're going to make the resolution, recommend that addition to 5,000 to go to the budget, but it will be up to the executive to put forth his final budget for the discussions.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion, this committee recommends for the 2017 budget that we fund the extension in the amount of $30,000 for 2017.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much, very much.
In fact, one other thing about the extension, they did start raising more funds on their own.
Absolutely.
On a local basis, which we asked them to do, and they've done a pretty good job. And of course, you see that everyone in your fence, so.
We appreciate that as well. Thank you all very much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, all right. Next up is transferring funds within the Veteran Assistance Commission, 2016. Anybody speak on that?
Is Crystal here?
It's just a budget, that's a budget transfer.
They're just moving.
Move money from one.
Yeah.
We have a motion?
It's going from 3471 to 1010. Yeah, 3,000 to 10,000. She's not able to move that on her own without resolution.
We have a motion? Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next up, amending the RTA budget to allow for abatement of the 2016 bonds.
Good morning. One of the processes we use with our general obligation alternate revenue bonds is to abate them every year. We're moving forward issuing $175 million worth of bonds to fund our capital projects this month. However, the abatement process would not have been included in the 2016 budget. So the request here is to use $11 million from RTA and move it into the new debt service fund in September, so in October we can abate those new bonds. And we need to do that even though we don't have a payment until May of 17.
Okay, motion?
Motion.
Motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to share?
Mr. Booz, and yeah, before you leave, I want to, I'm going to call out Nick and Rashawn and Karen for the awesome job they did on the ratings call. We got outstanding ratings, and Wells Fargo was way super impressed with the presentation you guys put through, and we came out smiling.
Wow,
So
yeah.
all three are awesome job.
You deserve it.
And we got from S&P, we got an AA+, and from Moody's, we got an AA1, which is basically the same.
And a stable outlook from both of them, which is
Very
not
stable.
always, doesn't always happen.
Does not always happen.
Yeah, very awesome.
Even though they did mention the state.
Yes.
Everybody's always concerned about the state of Illinois.
Next up, funding request by the Rialto Theatre.
Good morning, everyone. In your packet, there was a request from the Rialto, which was from back in June, and a letter of support from the county executive. At this point, and I talked to the chairman before the committee, we're supportive, the county executive is supportive of the Rialto, but he thought, and I'm open to hearing your opinion, is maybe holding off on this until because there's, as we all know, there's some decisions being made over there, and maybe that impacts how much and what we do. And so we have identified funding if we wanted to do a contribution to them, but...
Come from the executive's budget?
Cut the executive.
You can do that.
That's already happened a few times. So, but, and just incidentally, I was at the city of Joliet yesterday, which we'll talk about next committee. They do not have a commitment to fund the Rialto this year either, I don't believe. That's what I was told. So, I guess I just don't want the committee members in any way to think that the county executive is not supportive of Rialto, but at this point, we don't even know what they're doing. I mean, they're talking on the radio this morning about funding for salaries and not booking programs. And $50,000 won't even, it's not, this money was specifically requested for the marquee and their 90th birthday celebration, which is an event. But this wouldn't, if they used it for salaries, it wouldn't even cover a month of their salaries. So at this point, I think either tabling is what the county executive suggested, maybe, and wait until we have more information.
What's hard for me is when we're scrimping for $5,000 extra to give to the University Extension, which we're obligated to give them some money, it's hard to look at these kind of monies and say that we should. That's more of a budget. Jim first and Corey.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna talk more broader base. This is kind of a policy. And that is it really a county, is it really the county's responsibility? Or can we even use tax dollars, public funds for such venues? Look, I have, in my area, I have the Children's Museum continually ask me, our township, for funds for operations. You know, our response is, it's not appropriate for us to use tax dollars for that. This does not have a relationship like we have with the Illinois Extension. I mean, that's what I want to make clear. And it doesn't matter whether there's something in Bloomington or Wheatland, they're all worthwhile. Should we be supporting those? We have helped the Rialto in the past, but never on operations. It was always for a capital campaign to help preserve the historical building and venue there. Even that, I think, is probably a little questionable. And we got around that by not using tax dollars. We used the funds that came from when it came from the landfill from Waste Management, which I think gave us a little bit more wiggle room. But to use actual tax dollars for these kind of things, for their operation, I think would be totally inappropriate. And I don't even know if it's, I don't know if even legally, I'd have to ask Mary whether we can use revenue, tax funds for those types of things. Now, we do have that, I think, the money that comes from Waste Management is $100,000 a year, $50,000.
That would be the funds we would recommend using.
Well, I think it's the only fund you could use.
Right, and that's why we've used it in the past.
Well, we're sending that to United Way.
We have a balance from the previous Waste Management dollars. There's the new dollars that we're getting on an annual basis.
We didn't use up all the dollars.
We haven't used all the dollars.
Okay. But regardless of that, I think that even then, we would be limited to helping for a year. I mean, you wouldn't be able to give support, continual support. Now, the difference is if we had hotel tax, then those would be the funds we'd use. This county does not have a hotel tax. The city of Joliet has a hotel tax. I think Tinley Park, which has quite a few hotels in Will County, they may, so we don't really have a revenue source for these types of venues. And I think we should just put it out there. Yeah, we're not funding. We're unable to fund these types of activities because, I happen to think the Children's Museum in my neighborhood is just as important as the Rialto. So can we give them money? I mean, I'm being a little, facetious here, but you know what I'm saying? Everybody can make an argument for some venue in their community. So I don't think one is more important than the other, and I think Rialto programming is absolutely no more important than other programming that goes around. What's important about the Rialto is the actual historical significance of the theater and the building, but not the programming. And I've never been this kind of direct. I'll never support giving them money for operations, never.
Corey?
I couldn't agree more. Without reiterating it over and over again, I'll just say that I agree with Jim. But I don't think it's being facetious. I mean, there's organizations and programs all over this county that are equally important for the people that are living in that particular area. I mean, Jim mentioned the Children's Museum in Frankfurt. There's examples like that in Naperville and Plainfield too. I can even think of things that are certainly not as high profile, but equally important to the communities of Crete or even Beecher and Monique. So those. I don't think we can do this by any stretch of the imagination. And I also believe that we shouldn't table this. I don't think we should send the, by the nature of tabling it, we're saying to the Rialto or for those listening that we're still considering it. I don't think that's the right thing for us to do. I think, and I will make the motion today that this committee is recommending that the county not make any financial contributions toward the Rialto today, whether it be based upon operations or, they were talking about the marquee. I just think we should send that, if we're going to do it, we should send that message now versus tabling it and sending the message that we're still considering it, and then those who are working, closer to that might misunderstand our intentions. So I'll make a motion that we do not fund the Rialto, whether it be in its operations or in their, the marquee or 90th anniversary celebration as they had indicated. That's my motion.
Motion, I have a second. Second. I have a second from Ken. All in favor? No? Okay.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
I think though that we should, and I guess I'm going to look at Mary a little bit here, is we should be setting a policy, not even necessarily, my point is I don't want to talk just about the Rialto, but the policy of not funding activities that probably are not appropriate for us to fund, even if it comes from some non-tax revenue, kind of what I'll call kind of that windfall money or that kind of operational one. Mary, I mean, I think the state statute makes it clear. I mean, do we need to make it clearer for us that we cannot even consider these types of? And I would argue that even money that comes from the landfill or from those contracts is still some form of public funds that could still be maybe not considered the most appropriate use. So.
Well, the state statute does set forth very clearly what you can and cannot spend money on. So typically, if there is a desire of the county board to provide funding to an entity, then usually the state's attorney's office will look into that and see whether you legally can. And if you can't, I have an ask them back and say, sorry, there's no legal provision that allows you to fund that particular entity for the reasons you stated. Because if it's, certainly if it's tax money, that is most restricted funding. If it's public funds, you still have a fiduciary duty to the public to use those funds to benefit the public as a whole. But there are limitations, and the statute sets forth various charitable interests that you can support, and if that enabling legislation is not there, you cannot fund it.
This is not, I guess that's part of my point. This is not a charitable, this is a nonprofit. They're not a charity. And that's what I mean about making it clear in our policy, or having a clear understanding, what can be considered. I would say Rialto is not something that can be considered. It's a nonprofit that basically generates revenue, however they generate revenue. So I don't even think that it's appropriate. I guess I would ask for the opinion, or maybe for you to help us narrow down what is considered. I think we've already gone by the United Way that was okay.
I think years ago, maybe 8 to 10 years ago, I did bring forth a list of charitable endeavors that county board could contribute to. They are usually limited to things like the veterans, which also has a government component. Senior citizens, sometimes under limited circumstances, there's some room there. Your biggest wiggle room is with regard to whether it promotes economic development. So there are situations where an entity will promote economic development, you can provide funding for that reason. So those are the types of things that.
Steve? I'm sorry. We had a capital, they didn't do a capital campaign 10 or 15 years ago, didn't we contribute to that?
We contributed 50,000.
That's what I thought we did.
Yeah.
Was that out of tax revenue or was that out of the
That was out of the
garbage fund?
That was out of the,
And we do have an element of historic preservation
That was-
where county
Yeah,
board has a goal
Yeah,
to
2008.
preserve historic
And I think,
structures.
yeah, my point is going to be that the letter of request is kind of vague in what their uses are. And I think that we might want to consider a small donation to some of the capital improvements. And this is an historical structure that I think is worth helping out.
Oh, yeah.
But for operations, Jim, I think I'd have to agree with you. I'm not really sure they're managing this thing really well anyway. I'm not afraid to say that publicly. This is a venue that should be used very well and should be making money. Aurora has a theater that does much better than ours does. So I would agree, Corey, with this. But I would like to say that maybe if they come back and give us a little more specifics on what they would use it for in a capital nature, I might consider a small donation.
Right.
Steve, I appreciate that, but I just wouldn't consider any contribution, even if it was, and I'm exaggerating to make the point, I wouldn't consider a $10 contribution, simply because I think the message that we're sending is very confusing for those who are living in this county. It wasn't long ago when residents of Will County were reading in the Herald News about how the health department is shutting, has sections of it that are shutting down, programs are not going to be continued, there were layoffs at the health department, and then a couple months later, it was, now we're considering a contribution toward the theater. And I just can't imagine if you are just a casual observer of your government and working hard and paying your taxes, how those things mesh together. I love the Rialto. I've been to several shows there. I had people in my life who are no longer with us that were intimately involved in that organization, and I came to a root of respect and love it. However, it's not our role to do that. I think that it would be highly inappropriate. That's why I made my motion, which I would request for that to be called.
Yeah, let's call a vote on that. All in favor, not funding this?
But it was the motion was for our committee to not fund or to not follow through with any funding request for the other. So a yes vote
Is to not fund.
is to not fund.
Right. So let's have a roll call.
Harris.
Yes.
Singer.
Yes.
Trinier. No. Wilhelmie.
No.
Frizalone.
Yes. Motion passes. We'll not fund.
Let me make one quick comment.
Yeah.
Just for the information for the committee members, the Waste Management Fund was the funds we had identified, and previously, as Steve mentioned, in 2008, we did fund the Rialto $50,000. We have been paying the University of Illinois Extension out of this fund also, and in 2012, we did a contribution to the University of St. Francis for $50,000 out of that fund too. But there, just for your information, there's, as of the time we did this report, and I can provide this to you, $215,000 left from those donations. If, Jim, I know you remember this, there was money for District 8, which was all spent. That was specifically earmarked for District 8. Those funds were all spent. But the county also received payment, and that money's available. So if you come up with a policy, we can spend that money, or we could just dump it into the corporate fund. But that's not, we viewed it in the past not as, it's not taxpayer dollars per se, it's funds that were part of the deal.
So those are public monies.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, I know you get that, but I would suggest those monies then go to the health department.
Yeah.
I think there's a greater public good than the Rialto.
I'm not a member of the committee, but just as a point of clarification, the Rialto Theatre Foundation is a 501c3 charitable organization.
Jack.
But we're not giving to the 501c3. we're giving it. And the 501c3 is an organization that raises funds on behalf of the Rialto. So let's get the 501c3 charitable and straight. And if they chose to use that funds for something else, they should have a separate board and fundraising entity. So the 501c3 is not the Rialto. It's separate from the Rialto. Let's make that clear.
Jackie?
Okay.
I would just like to point.
No, the 501c is a charitable organization that raises money perhaps on behalf of the Rialto. The Rialto itself is not.
The corporation that I named
It's part of an expert. No. The Rialto, it comes under the tourism, I'm trying to think what it's actually called.
Isn't it an exposition?
Exposition, correct.
Right.
Metropolitan Exposition, which may also give us the ability to get to that. But it's not. The 501c3 is separate from Rialto.
I'll state it again. The Rialto Square Theater Foundation is a 501c3.
They didn't ask for
whatever.
The foundation not asking for the money.
From the foundation.
I'm just pointing out, it's separate.
I know it is, but the letter is from the foundation.
All right.
I don't know, can I say something?
Yes, you can.
I mean, it doesn't seem like I can. I just wanted to mention in response to Corey's comment, well, I would appreciate putting that $215,000 that we have sitting in the Waste Management Fund towards the Health Department. Sounds like a great idea, but it just prolongs the pain that we've had to do there. What we're looking at doing was making a capital investment in a sign, I think, is what the letter talked about, not somebody's payroll. That was my understanding. I'm not in favor of, funding payroll or operations, but I am in favor of helping with capital improvements. I think that that's important. Whether or not that theater stays open, that sign is still going to be there. And, it is a part of the history of Joliet, the fabric of Joliet. Just as I noted yesterday when I went to visit the Joliet prison and saw how it was crumbling because no one was taking responsibility for the infrastructure. I'd hate to see, that sign or anything on our main streets in town.
Two things. One, they did ask, part of the money was to go for their celebration.
Right, but we could choose to just give it to the
And secondly,
sign.
if we are going to do it for people to capital improvements, then we ought to get a list from all throughout the county of all of the projects that would like money to preserve themselves. Jim?
Let me say, I'm going to use my neighborhood now. We had a very significant building, a creamery building, so significant that the state of Illinois spent, $500,000 moving it to another site. And that building was allowed to just crumble away, and nobody from the county came to rescue a very historical, significant building. As a matter of fact, the county, I'm sure, didn't feel it was their obligation to help preserve that building. So the building, after sitting there for 20 years, finally collapsed and had to be torn down. Where was the love for my community? I'm just saying that if you're going to start going down this road, it's just not going to be for the Rialto. There's a lot of other areas that are worth preserving. And so I'm now going to start standing up for the rest of the county and some of our historical buildings that have been. So is the county going to help support those?
Corey?
Okay, I just want to.
I agree, we're going to move on. But I agree. I did. Dang microphone. Whatever it's worth, I'm very aware that $215,000 or really $500,000 is not going to make a long-term positive impact to the problems we're having with the health department. I get that. But if I had to choose whether or not even $50,000 went to help a health department program that helped real people with real problems for a short period of time versus invested in a sign, I couldn't look someone in the eye on the street who needed those services and say that we didn't help you, even if it was just you. We didn't help you because we now have a prettier sign at the Rialto. I just can't make those decisions when you have to make decisions about where money goes.
I agree.
I'm done.
Let's
Thank you.
move on. Assignment of tax sale certificates. Move. Second, all in favor? Opposed? Quiet aye, but thank you. Motion approved. Authorize the county executive to execute necessary documents for the local tax program. Move. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And we have the monthly corporate fund budget to actual report.
Good morning.
Michelle.
So the monthly budget to actual report is for the month ending of June 30th. You have before you the report. I won't go through everything, but highlight the important parts. The first page shows the pie chart of revenue with accruals. You'll note that 34% came from property taxes, 30% came from intergovernmental, and 19% came from charges for services. Our expenses with accruals, 55% was salaries, fringes, was 30% for a total of 85%, 6% professional and technical services, and 4% supplies. Then page 2, our cash balance. Cash balance as of June 30th was $37 million, which is as expected at this point with the receipt of the property taxes. The difference between June 2015 and June 2016 was about $6.9 million, and part of that is attributed to the FICA and IMRF transfer that has to be done to move those monies. Then on page 3, we have our revenue and expense section by category. Our actual revenue for year-to-date is $87.1 million. Accruals for revenue is $15 million for a total of $102.1 million. The expense side, year-to-date actual was $97.9 million with accruals $3.7 million for a total of $101.6 million. As you'll note, our revenue is a little higher, tracking higher than prior year, and on the expense side, we're a little higher than prior year. Moving on to page 4 and 5, continuing on with revenue. Categories here shows the budgeted amount, the actual with comparisons, and you'll note the category as a percent of total budget. No one is over 100%. And then moving on to page 6, the expense side, again, activity by department. And then you'll note here, department as a percentage total corporate budget. No one here is over 100%. The target percentage is based on 7 months of activity, or 58%. And then the last page, page 7, which shows year-to-date expenses by department in the expense category, broken out by salary and fringes, and then all other commodities. Just to point out here, you'll note there are about 5 departments that are a little over the 58%, which is based on, salary and fringes is based on 15 out of 26 biweekly pay periods, and 7 out of 12 months of physical activity for all of the commodities. And on the commodity side, we have actually 4 departments that are a little over 58%. That for the share of that amount, that's an error. There's error with the formula there, so they're not actually 163% over.
That's good.
Any questions on the report?
I just had a question on a couple of revenue items. We have about $10 million higher than last year in revenues. and the majority of that looks like it's coming from interest and our share of the income tax. Do you think that is going to be more of a timing issue, or do you think we're going to stay high on those two items?
We could stay a little higher on those two items. So what's trending now, we're showing a little high on the, if that continues to stay over, the next few months. But
okay, good. That's good to hear.
so we're hoping that.
Yeah.
You were talking about, I don't know if you had the, I don't know if you, reading the reports from the S&P and Moody's, they do reference some changes, and I do think they make a reference that this is becoming a more affluent county in the reports. This is getting to some of what you're asking, Steve, and they talk about the average income going up considerably in Will County. Household income is getting pretty high here, where they're actually saying it's an affluent county. So that's the first time I actually heard that in a report. We used to hear the opposite, that our household income was too low, and therefore we can only go so far in obtaining, obtaining a certain rating. So I do think some of the trending is going to, at least it appears it's going to continue. And so that's a good sign.
I think so.
And they say that in their reports, that there's a bright outlook for Will County in general. So let's hope it keeps going that way.
Awesome. Thanks, Rashawn.
Thank you.
All right, we have any other new business?
I didn't
I
want to
missed you,
say
I'm
anything
sorry,
that's not
I'm sorry.
important. No, it's fine. I'll talk to her after.
Any other new business? Any public comment? Anything else? Chairman's report, I'd just like to say, again, thanks to Nick and Rashawn and Karen for doing a fabulous job on their maintenance call, and it makes us look really good. I'd also like to say, it seems like, based on all indications, that we'll be able to tick down our tax rate again, which would be good for everybody. And just makes us look good at a community. Obviously, we're getting more affluent. I'm waiting, where's my raise?
Well, you're one of the people that raised that average household income, I might add.
I don't think so.
They specifically mentioned you.
Did they? I haven't seen it yet. All right, do we need an executive session for anything? I don't think so. All right. A motion to adjourn? Motion? Steve, second. All in favor? Opposed? No. Yeah, any more caffeine? Thank you, everybody. And Reagan, I left 5 minutes to relax.